Hello, my name is Christine, and I warmly welcome you here on my channel, Horse Knowledge Explained Clearly. Today I would like to discuss a fascinating but often misunderstood phenomenon with you, the natural crookedness in horses. Throughout this contribution, I would like to shed light on the following questions. How can the natural crookedness of the horse be described? Is your horse really crooked by nature? Why does an older, long-ridden horse still remain crooked? Do you need to create a balance while riding? Are you perhaps crooked in your body as a rider and exacerbating the problem? These questions are not mere theory, but directly affect the health and well-being of your horse. Why am I addressing this topic? There are several reasons why this topic is so important to me. The first reason is the health consequences for the horse. If natural crookedness is not taken into account or corrected, serious problems can arise, including lameness and chronic damage to the musculoskeletal system. The second reason is that many horse owners do not pay enough attention to crookedness in training, with untrained young horses, but also with older ridden horses. It is crucial for the horse's good, long-term health. The third reason is my own astonishment. I came across a book that is over 25 years old and describes this topic very precisely, including exercise series to correct the skewness. If the problem has been known for so long, why do we still see so many ridden horses that are still crooked? That is exactly why I decided to address this topic in the hope that you will take it more into your focus and thereby contribute to your horse's health. What is natural skewness? Natural skewness is a fascinating but often misunderstood phenomenon. It describes the horse's tendency to perform certain movements unevenly, and it is present to some extent in every horse. It can also be observed in horses in the wild. This skewness is not a disease, but a normal characteristic of the body. It can occur in various places such as in the shoulders, back, spine, or legs. And this phenomenon affects not only horses, but also humans in parallel. In humans, you know this is right, or left-handedness. It is said that horses are also born somewhat as left or right-handed. However, since we want to ride them equally well in both directions under the rider, they must be trained and exercised as evenly as possible on both sides in horses. One speaks of both hands. Only in this way can physical damage be avoided in the long term. Imagine a person being trained to become the perfect ambidextrous, being able to write, work, and play sports equally well with both the right and left hand. This is hard to imagine. It is just as difficult for your horse to be truly equally good on both reins, to become and remain a two-handed horse under the rider. What a challenge for the horse to learn that, and what a challenge for you as a rider to train your horse that way, even though you yourself are right-handed or left-handed. This also answers an important question. Why are there so many older horses that are still crooked and do not move evenly on both reins? The answer is, it is extremely demanding to truly achieve and maintain this evenness. It requires you as a rider or trainer to constantly observe, control, and adjust the training. If this does not happen, chronic damage to the musculoskeletal system can develop over time. Let's take a closer look at the natural features of crookedness. The natural crookedness of the horse is generally described as an asymmetry that exists from birth. Typically, the horse has a hollow side that is structurally shorter. It has a stiff side where counter-movements are more difficult. You can vividly imagine this with a picture. The horse's body is curved like a banana. The hollow side is the inside of the banana, the shorter side. In this direction, the horse bends more easily because the body is already curved there. The stiff, convex side is the outside of the banana, the longer side. You must always keep this difference in mind when training or educating a horse. Why crookedness is so significant for health. The natural crookedness can lead to health problems if not taken into account. Due to the unbalanced, one-sided load, tensions in the body increase, especially when the training does not compensate for the skewness, but even unconsciously reinforces it. The skewness becomes even more significant once a horse is ridden. With the additional weight of the rider, the stresses increase significantly. If you, as a rider, also have a skewness in your body, it can amplify the horse's skewness. When you take all these factors into account, you realize what a significant physical burden this can represent for a horse. The horse's natural skewness is normal, but it must not be ignored in training. Important consequences for you as a rider or trainer are: observe your horse closely. Does it run significantly easier on one rein than the other? Plan your training so that you specifically promote the weaker side and do not further reinforce the favorite side. Be aware of your own crookedness, it always influences your horse as well. Understand gymnastic training not as a luxury, but as a health necessity. A concrete example: let's take a look at a horse that has a noticeable natural crookedness. First, let's look at a left hollow horse that is more bent to the left. The hollow side, that is, the inner side of our banana, is noticeably muscled shorter. This is usually also the reason why the mane hair often falls to this side. You can see this with the naked eye. When you approach the horse from behind, it likes to turn towards the hollow side, in our example, to the left. This makes sense. It is easier for the horse to turn to the side it is already bent towards. The croup and hindquarters on the hollow side are less muscled. In a left hollow horse, the left side of the croup is therefore less developed than the right. On the shorter, hollow side, the pairs of legs tend to stand closer together. The horse puts more weight on the front leg of the stiff side. In my example, the right one, it is said to fall on the outer shoulder. The front hoof on the hollow side is often steeper and narrower than the other. On the long or stiff side in our example, the right side of the body, everything looks different. The front leg is placed further forward here, and the hind leg further back. This means the front leg and hind leg have a greater distance from each other than on the hollow side. An important feature: on the hollow side, the hind leg does not enter the track of the front leg but passes by laterally offset. This is a clear sign of crookedness. Do you recognize the crookedness even in a very young horse? It is important to know you can already recognize natural crookedness in foals. You just need to know what to look for. Observe a young horse based on these points. How does the horse stand naturally? How does the horse behave when you approach from behind? Observe the horse from all sides, not just one. With some practice and attentive observation, you will recognize the crookedness early on. There are various reasons why horses develop or have a natural crookedness. Let me go through the most important ones. There may be congenital, structural causes. This means the horse has slight deformities or deviations in the bone and joint structures. These lead to the horse naturally preferring one side of its body. It may also be that the musculature is more developed on one side of the body from birth. This asymmetry in the musculature causes the horse to prefer a certain side of its body. Other causes lie in the functional area. The horse may favor one side of its body due to pain or illness, resulting in a crooked posture. A common reason is that one side of the body is trained more intensively during training or daily exercises than the other. This often happens unnoticed. The horse works more easily and smoothly on one rein, so both the horse and some horse enthusiasts prefer to train on that rein. It's more enjoyable. The result: a one-sidedly trained, asymmetrical musculature and a curvature of the horse develop. A few words about the role of breeding, and thus the housing conditions during the foal stage. Many young horses already carry physical problems from the very beginning. The reason: unfavorable housing conditions as foals. These young horses start their basic training already with a pronounced crookedness and little balance, with unilaterally strongly developed muscles and tendons. Sometimes even with front hooves that have distinctly different sizes. Many foals spend time in paddocks or stalls, especially in the winter months when pasture areas are lacking. This is understandable when space is limited. But the problem is, these small spaces do not meet the natural urge to move of the foal and do not contribute to a uniformly good, symmetrical musculature. In contrast, a horse that has grown up in the open air, has had large pastures, and has been able to run and play many kilometers uphill and downhill has a significantly better and more balanced balance and musculature. That would be the ideal case. Of course, if possible, you should prefer a horse that has already been raised responsibly as a young horse. Such a horse has had the chance to develop a uniformly pronounced musculature on both sides of its body. My tip: before purchasing a young horse, a brief assessment of these aspects by an expert can be very helpful. A corresponding consultation doesn't cost much and may save you years of problems when training your young horse. Here comes something very important. The rider themselves can contribute to a one-sided skew. How? If the rider has an asymmetrical posture, they train the horse in a one-sided manner. The rider unconsciously sits crooked in the saddle, and the horse immediately notices this. The biggest problems arise when both horse and rider exhibit asymmetry in the same direction. In this case, the horse and rider reinforce each other in this regard. This is a real problem. The skew is intensified instead of balanced, and this continues for years. Conclusion: the skewness of a horse is the result of many factors: anatomical predisposition, conditions of upbringing, training methods, and riding style. Your own posture as a rider also plays a role. If you understand these factors, you can counteract and better support your horse. Now let's talk about the natural weight distribution in horses. Let me first explain how a horse naturally distributes its body weight. Horses naturally carry about 60% of their body weight on their forehand, that is, on their front legs. It's quite simple. The center of gravity of a horse is located further forward, which is why the front legs are naturally subjected to greater strain. This is initially completely normal physiologically. What changes when a rider mounts? Now comes the critical point. When a rider mounts, the weight distribution on the untrained horse shifts even more clearly towards the front legs. This means the weight bears even more heavily on the front legs, and the horse cannot optimally balance itself. The long-term consequences for the horse: for many horses, this condition of not being able to run in balance persists for a lifetime because they are not trained enough or not trained properly. And this has significant consequences. The front legs, as well as their tendons, joints, and bones, are subjected to excessive strain for life. It is like wear and tear from overuse, and eventually, the consequences become apparent. Additionally, an unbalanced rider can also place increased stress on the forehand for a lifetime. The horse can become stiff in its movement due to this double overload. It can suffer serious damage and develop lameness. The goal of any reasonable training is therefore clear: to activate the hindquarters. What does that mean concretely? You train your horse so that it learns to carry its own body weight, and yours more with the back part of its body. The horse should build up a correspondingly strong, as symmetrical as possible musculature for this purpose. The result: the forehand and the front legs are no longer so heavily loaded. The weight is distributed more evenly as a result. This is the foundation for health and longevity. The weight distribution on a crooked horse. Now it gets even more interesting and also more difficult. The double overload. I already mentioned that a horse carries about 60% of its load on the forehand. This weight distribution is reinforced by a rider, and especially by an unbalanced rider. Then the load on the forehand is well over 60%. But that's only half the story, because now we consider the lateral component of the crookedness. Let's look at the weight distribution on the rider. An off-center rider, meaning a rider whose body is asymmetrical, exerts a lateral, uneven weight distribution on the horse. The problem is that here the crookedness of the horse is not corrected, but rather intensified. Now let's consider the weight distribution on the crooked horse. Let me try to explain this to you by first looking at the hollow side. Due to the natural one-sided bending of the horse's body, one hind leg does not step as far under the center of gravity as the other hind leg. Specifically, the horse can bend more easily on the hollow side. The inner hind leg, on the hollow side, steps further away from the center of gravity. On the stiff side, everything is different. The hind leg steps further back and consequently less far under the center of gravity. The center of gravity therefore shifts forward and outward toward the stiff side. But the horse has to compensate somehow. So it places its front leg further forward on the stiff side. The result: there is a higher load on the front leg on the stiff side. When the hindquarters of the hollow side shift sideways so that they do not follow the track of the forehand, riders say the horse is on two hoofbeats. This means the horse theoretically runs straight, but its front legs and hind legs are not actually aligned in a straight line. This is not just a cosmetic flaw. It is a symptom of a lack of balance and unilateral loading. Let me summarize the essentials for you. The natural basic principle: the horse naturally carries 60% of its weight with the forehand. Due to natural crookedness, it follows that the hind leg does not step in the track of the forehand. The front leg of the stiff side carries more weight. The rider can exacerbate the problem. An unbalanced, untrained, or stiff rider intensifies the unequal weight distribution in the horse. This mostly concerns the hindquarters, overall, but also unilaterally due to its own body asymmetry. What does this mean for your training? From this knowledge follows a clear consequence. You must work very consciously during training to compensate for these natural imbalances, rather than potentially reinforcing them unconsciously. This means purposefully activate the hindquarters. Train evenly on both sides. Work on your own balance and symmetry. Regularly check if you are unconsciously loading the horse unilaterally. Only in this way can you keep your horse healthy in the long term. What problems arise from natural crookedness in training? Let's first look at what problems arise from natural crookedness when gymnasticizing the horse first without additional rider weight. Natural crookedness becomes particularly noticeable when the horse is running in a circle, that is, on the circle or on the volte. Since the horse is naturally bent to its hollow side, it finds it much easier to walk in a circle in that direction. As you can see here, the horse is moving smoothly to the left. This means that its hollow side in this case is the left side of its body. It may even be that the horse enjoys bending strongly in this one direction so much that the diameter of the circle keeps getting smaller. In this picture, you can see that the horse naturally tilts its head and neck area even more towards the trainer and shifts its center of gravity more into the curve to the left without the trainer demanding it. If the horse continues to run in this ever-decreasing circle around the trainer without correction, it gets closer and closer to him. The arc of the circle becomes smaller and smaller until the horse pushes the trainer aside or, in extreme cases, almost runs him over. In the other direction, that is, over the stiff side, on which the horse is not naturally bent, it looks completely different. Here, the horse often has significant problems even going in a circular arc. The head, neck, and hindquarters are often oriented opposite to the circle arc. Imagine the banana horse. When it runs in a circle around you as the trainer, it looks away from you the whole time, outward towards the fence or the arena wall. Due to this banana shape, the hind legs always move away from the center of the circle where you stand. So the horse actually does not want to run in a circular direction around you. It looks outward, tries to enlarge the circle, or does not want to go at all. If you have the horse on the lunge line and try to keep it in a circle, it can quickly turn into a real tug of war. What does this mean for lunging? For a horse to properly run a circle on the lunge line in both directions around the trainer, it needs practice and correct training. If this consistent training is neglected, even older, already ridden horses will still not move balanced and straight in circles. This condition then continues under the rider and leads to physical damage over time. That is why a lunge circle or round pen is often used at the beginning of horse training. There, the horse initially learns the basics of moving in a circle. Later, through further gymnastic exercises and good training, it can correctly and in balance move on the lunge in both directions, that is, on both reins. Even later, it should be well trained, with correct weight distribution, to be able to move in both directions in a circle under the rider. However, if this training is not carried out consistently and the natural crookedness is not sufficiently corrected, this training error will persist throughout the life of a riding horse. What problems does natural crookedness cause when riding straight? When you take the reins, you shorten them enough to have a light contact with the horse's mouth and can convey what you expect from it. Of course, when riding straight, you ensure that both reins are of equal length and that you have a gentle, even contact with the bit in the sensitive horse's mouth. Now let's take a look at what problems the natural crookedness can cause when riding straight. A horse that constantly goes bent underneath you due to its natural crookedness inadvertently creates an uneven connection with the reins. When you ride straight and look at the horse's head and neck from above, you can see that they do not form a straight line. The horse is always looking a little to one side. In the direction the horse is looking, it is also more likely to move. This makes it difficult for the horse to go truly straight. Since you want to have an even contact with the horse using both reins, you tend to take the loose rein on the side where the horse is looking a bit shorter. On the other opposite side, the neck forms a distinct curve and looks like the back of a banana. So you let the rein longer there, as the distance between the bridle and the rider's hand is greater due to the bend of the neck. The consequence is an amplification of the imbalance between horse and rider, as the reins are now taken up unevenly. Due to the differently long reins, the horse's body shifts. The banana shape intensifies and spreads into the shoulder area. On the stiff side, where the rein is generally longer, the neck and shoulder can expand even further and take on an even stronger banana shape. The imbalance is increasing, and one says, the horse breaks out over the shoulder. What does that mean? The horse looks in one direction with its head, but follows its shoulder with its body and drifts off in the opposite direction, that is, where the shoulder points, not where the head points. To prevent this drifting or evasion, the inexperienced rider often does the following. He begins to pull on the already shorter rein of the hollow side to bring the horse in the supposedly correct direction. At the same time, he tries to balance himself and leans inward, bending at the hip. This shifts his own center of gravity and, together with the rein inequality, further intensifies the horse's crookedness instead of correcting it. What problems does natural crookedness cause when turning? Shortening the inner rein, that is, pulling on the rein in the direction you want to turn, is an almost instinctive action for many riders. However, this can have two very different consequences depending on the side. If you want to turn towards the stiff side, that is, towards the banana-shaped back of the horse often resists this turn. It actually does not want to go in that direction at all. A real tug of war occurs. You pull on the rein because you want to turn. The horse pulls in the opposite direction because it prefers to go straight ahead, or even better, in the opposite direction. This is mainly due to 2 points. The horse is naturally bent in the opposite direction. It is too stiff and not balanced enough on its stiff side to be able to follow the body of the required turn. If you instead want to turn towards the hollow side and shorten the inner rein, something else happens. The horse's head, which is already slightly turned inward, turns even more inward. The neck is strongly bent inward by the pull of the inner rein, while the withers and the outer shoulder shift even further outward. Some trainers describe this figuratively. The horse bends its neck like a tractor trailer that bends sharply at the front and then turns, while the rest of the body remains stiff and immobile behind. The horse then bends only at the neck, but not through the whole body. What problems does natural crookedness cause when riding on circles? When riding on circles or arcs, natural crookedness also becomes very apparent. There is always a circle direction in which the horse seems to be ridden without problems or almost effortlessly. If you find yourself on the hollow side of the horse, meaning you are riding in the direction the head is already pointing, the horse will willingly follow you. The inner rein is automatically slightly shortened due to the hollow side of the neck. The outer rein is minimally longer. This way, the horse and rider are in natural balance on this side. You, as the rider, almost automatically slide a little inward in the saddle exactly where the hollow side is located. As soon as you change direction and ride in the other direction on the circle, everything changes. Due to its natural crookedness, the banana shape, the horse will now turn its head outward and look outward towards the fence or the wall of the riding arena. It has no own balance to correct this state by itself. You, as the rider, often feel insecure and uncomfortable in this situation. The horse increasingly puts weight on the inner front leg. Your intuitive reaction is often to shorten the inner rein so that the horse looks inward. While this does bring the head inward, the horse can no longer balance itself well in this position. The result is a stiff, shortened gait, even to the point of a pass-like gait, because the horse does not find a true state of balance in this artificially created head-neck position. You feel how your horse's body becomes stiff, and you unconsciously react similarly. You become stiff in your muscles as well. You bend at the hip, usually towards the hollow side. If this imbalance is not corrected through gymnastic groundwork, balance training of the muscles on both sides of the body, and adjusted, conscious rider influence, the horse will suffer significant long-term consequences. A common late consequence is, for example, that the horse only wants to canter on one rein and evades the canter on the other rein, or appears very unwilling and unbalanced while doing so. With that, we have reached the end of today's topic. Thank you very much for being here today. If you liked my contribution, I would appreciate a like, as it helps my video to be suggested to other potential interested viewers in the YouTube algorithm. If you enjoy my contributions, I would be especially happy if you subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. See you next time.